I have played a lot of games. Damn it. All right, let's... What? What? Yeah, what? What? No. 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 No! At least, that was the original plan. I originally did plan on making a review video of Banjo Kazooie Nuts Bolts. The game crashing a few times and just me generally not enjoying the experience, I figured I'd throw in the towel and just move on. I mean, I named it Valiant Attempts a series for a reason, you know? One of the things I've always wanted to focus on with this channel is reviewing games, movies, and other such media that I enjoy. There are plenty of people out there who review bad things because they're bad, but I'd rather highlight things I enjoyed rather than put them down. At the very least, if I end up doing a review of something that's bad or that I don't enjoy, it'll be in the context of a much larger video, such as my last video where I reviewed all the games in my physical Switch collection. In other words, I will not be making a video all about Banjo Kazooie Butts and Dolts, a game that I don't even care enough about to get the proper cover art for. Instead, here's a very brief summation of my thoughts on the game so that the several hours of gameplay it took trying to make that video are worth it before we move on. Originally, I thought that Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts was a terrible Banjo Kazooie game, but an alright game otherwise. After having to play through it twice, however, I can safely say it's not a good Banjo Kazooie game, or even really a good game. There's some things I like, such as the surprising depth to the vehicle customization, but this game feels more like a cynical attempt at leveraging a beloved IP to try and make a quick buck. A lot of the humor is either derogatory or intentionally insulting towards the original games. There's only like 4 kinds of overly repetitive quests in each world, and the process of unlocking the final boss, let alone going for completion, is tedious and ultimately feels hollow. To put it simply, I did not enjoy Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I didn't enjoy playing through it more than once because my footage got corrupted, and in hindsight I honestly should have taken that as a sign to stop when it first happened. It's not awful by any means, but it's a dull, repetitive, and quite possibly worse third entry into a beloved series than Mass Effect 3 was. And now, with all that out of the way, we can get on with this next video. Last year, I managed to achieve a goal I've been working towards for some time now, earning myself over 100 platinum trophies across PlayStation 3, 4, and 5. So in celebration of me earning that many plats, I thought I'd take a moment to talk about the quality of the games themselves for once, since every time I've talked about earning platinums up to now has mostly been in the context of how easy or difficult the game was to earn each platinum trophy in. If you want to know my overall thoughts on the trophy hunting side of things, you can check out the various videos I've made up to this point talking about that very process, all of which are linked down below. But for our purposes today, trophy difficulty won't be the primary factor of consideration when ranking these games. I'll be looking at the story, gameplay, characters, and other such factors when figuring out a game's ranking on this list, so expect some personal biases to crop up. However, since we're talking about the game quality this time around and not a general average of how easy or difficult a game is to platinum, I figured a good old-fashioned worst to best list would work well here. Each game will be given a brief, 150-word or less description of what it is and why I like or don't like it, so this doesn't take 9 years for me to make. And then we can move on to whatever it is I decide to follow this up with. And I should emphasize here that these are all my personal opinions on these games. If you disagree with the game's placement on the list, that's perfectly fine. Just, you know, don't be a jerk about it. But there's one minor discrepancy I want to address before we get too deep into this. There are 3 games on this list that I have technically completed twice across different platforms or versions, but 2 of them I consider to be entirely separate experiences, because one is the original and the other is a remake or remaster. Those 2 being Marvel's Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and Destroy All Humans, which had a PS2 to PS4 port as well as a full-blown remake. The lone outlier of the 3 games here is Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy, since I completed it first on PlayStation 3 and then again on PS4. But as far as I can tell, there's not really any major difference between the 2 versions outside of a slightly better frame rate on PS4. So instead of only talking about just 99 games, I have instead picked another game that itself does not have a platinum as an honorary mention because I really wish this game had a platinum. But we'll get into that in due time. And again, I want to emphasize that a game's placement on this list is more in terms of my feelings towards the actual quality of the game or my personal enjoyment with it, rather than where I would rank it based on trying to unlock all the trophies. Some of these games I will happily admit that I earned a platinum on simply because they were easy platinums, but I did enjoy the vast majority of these games, and that's what we're focusing on here today. Anyways, that's the premise, and this is going to be a long boy, so let's talk about the first 100 games that I platinumed and rank them from worst to best. Number 100, Tokyo Run. All you do in Tokyo Run is run through the Chinatown decorated streets as you pick up coins and avoid hordes of sumo wrestlers until you get bored or get the platinum after 3 minutes of gameplay. The coins aren't really used to buy anything and are there more as just a useless tally. Getting hit by the sumo wrestlers doesn't really slow you down all that much or stop you in any way, and this game is just here as trophy fodder that feels like a mobile port that wasn't even worth the 99 cents I paid for it or the minuscule hard drive space needed to download it. I would rather run away from this game than ever play it again. Number 99, Snake Boat Autorific Arcade. With stiff controls and graphics that wouldn't look out of place on MS Paint, Snake Boat Autorific Arcade is so mind-numbingly dull that I could barely stay awake to finish this game for the platinum, a task that takes less than 10 minutes to do. All you have to do in this game is move around dodging arrows and wondering where your life went wrong because you're playing this game. Tokyo Run is just barely worse because you can basically play it with no consequences, but this one isn't trailing that far ahead of it if I'm being honest. Number 98, Funny Truck. Bodies spawn out of your truck, you fling them out, and Funny Truck is done being fun in like 1 minute, and you have another 4 to endure before you unlock the platinum. There's not even anything really funny about it, like wacky sound effects. All you have are random ramps and ragdolling reprobates, another trophy fodder game that doesn't warrant another mention, so we'll just move on. Number 97, Road Bustle. Frogger, but worse. The game is clearly either quickly made or was made using a tutorial in one of those how to make video games books that someone submitted to PSN. Like Funny Truck and Tokyo Run, it's only fun for a few minutes at most, but does require you to pay at least a bit more attention to it, so near the top of the bottom of the barrel it goes. Somehow this game also got a sequel, but I doubt I'll be playing that anytime soon. Number 96, Chickens on the Road. All you have to do in Chickens on the Road is hit chickens until you either hit another car and die, or just give up, because this game is otherwise just kinda dull. Not much else to say here that I didn't say when I got the platinum, because it's literally just meant as trophy fodder, but at the very least there are consequences for hitting stuff, so it's better than Tokyo Run. Not exactly a high bar to clear though. Number 95, Don't Touch That Button. A simple game where you mainly do the opposite of what you're told. Don't Touch That Button is a fun little game that's only really fun to complete once. The puzzles are, for the most part, just do the opposite of whatever you're told, though there are 1 or 2 that genuinely had me thinking for a bit, so I'm at least willing to say it was better than some of the other games I've played by Radaleka. If you enjoy this kind of logic puzzle approach, then I'd say at least give it a look, but it's otherwise just an alright experience. Wait, is this opposite day? In which case I will call this a fantastic game. Number 94, Hentai vs. Evil. The only reason I played Hentai vs. Evil is because I wanted a stereotypically sexy game for my 69th platinum, and since the Colonel Sanders dating sim isn't available on PlayStation, I went with this one instead. It's a very bare bones experience. Or should I say bare skin? Only asking you to run around and shoot enemies with a variety of guns while being an anime girl. The simplistic gameplay made this a relatively quick platinum, and I'm willing to give it points for making the first option under character customization being thighs. I mean, that's just fucking funny. Number 93, Inksplosion. I was initially interested in playing Inksplosion because it looked like Splatoon mixed with Geometry Wars, and while that's arguably what it is, the game can pretty much be completed in an hour without much depth from there. Visually it's kind of fun in the same way that Splatoon is, but you're not so much painting the levels to win, and more just paint happens because dying. Plus, with how quickly you can complete levels and the needlessly high difficulty in some areas, I think I'd much rather play Geometry Wars over this. Not bad for about 10 minutes, but really that's about it. Number 92, Mr. Masagi. Unlike most of the other trophy fodder games on this list, Mr. Masagi has at least some production value behind it in that you're interacting with different girls in a visual novel/dating sim sense. But when there's a clear path forward in each of them and not much depth beyond single interactions, even the reward of a basic but unique controller vibration for each girl isn't enough to make me want to keep swiping right. Number 91, Concept Destruction. One of the few Raid-alike games I've played that I sort of enjoyed, Concept Destruction is a demolition derby with small Hot Wheels-sized cardboard cars in arenas made out of office supplies. The fact that your cars actually take damage and said damage can affect how you drive is kinda neat, and overall it's a fun concept that I just wish had been a little bit more fleshed out, because otherwise it's only fun for maybe 10 minutes. Not a bad game by any means, just a little lacking in something new beyond its main premise to make me want to play this one again. Number 90, My Name is Mayo. Tap a jar of mayo, occasionally stop tapping to load up a quick little snippet of text that gives the mayo or the surrounding area a brief cosmetic change, and repeat until you've had your fill or there's no more stories to tell. Some of the stories that come up are cute, and it's as satisfying as any other clicker game can be, so certainly worth the $1 price point, but My Name is Mayo really isn't much more than that. Number 89, Rick and Morty Virtual Rickality, an interactive VR episode of Rick and Morty. That's basically all I really have to say to fully convey what this game is. You help Rick with his laundry, fuse a carrot and hammer to make the world's most ineffective tool, have many one-sided conversations with the devil's secretary, and even murder an endless stream of government employees. Personally, I don't think it's a badly made game, but my general disinterest in Rick and Morty nowadays is probably why it's so far down this list. If you're a fan of the show, you'll probably enjoy this, but if you're not a fan of it, or more specifically Justin Roiland, well, at least now you have something in common with Adult Swim. Number 88, Coffin Dodgers. A fairly bare-bones kart racing game about old folks racing the literal Grim Reaper so they don't die. This is still a serviceable experience through and through. Outside of unlocking the Grim Reaper himself as a racer, and the fact that zombies start appearing on the track the further into the story you go, the game does lack a lot more depth than I was expecting from it. It's fine, worth playing at least a little bit and not too hard to earn the Platinum Trophy in, but just not really worth choosing over something like CTR or Mario Kart in my opinion. Though neither of those games let me use an Uzi as a geriatric person, so maybe it was onto something after all. Number 87, Accounting Plus. A story-driven VR title from the demented minds of Justin Roiland and William Pugh, Accounting Plus is as silly and random as you might expect from the people who made Rick and Morty or the Stanley Parable respectively to have crafted. Killing the king of VR and entering his newly opened chest cavity, being sworn at profusely by a tree-dwelling blob, and taking out cops with a seed gun are the norm here, making for a strangely random but chaotically fun short experience. Again, assuming you can put up with Justin Roiland riffing for more than 20 minutes at a time. It's a good introductory game to VR all told, but otherwise isn't all that great to return to once you know the gags. Number 86, Mochi Mochi Boy. Mochi Mochi Boy is a cute little puzzle game all about filling up the screen with your cute little self without crossing over any part of your tubular body. It's basically a puzzle version of Snake, in other words. Some of the levels can genuinely be difficult, but it's otherwise a simple, fun little game. One that even after getting the Platinum for, I played for a bit because it was just that simple and fun. Not really worth more than a passing glance if I'm being perfectly honest, but still has enough variety and fun beyond it to be a good experience overall. Number 85, Gun Crazy. A run-and-gun game that lifts a lot of inspiration from the Mega Man X series, Gun Crazy is a wonderfully stylized experience that doesn't really require much to platinum, but offers plenty to do beyond just that. All that said, the game is overly simple and often unfair, with enemies able to attack you from off-screen and some attacks seeming near impossible to dodge at all. Overall, a fun homage to Mega Man X, but I think I'd personally rather just play Mega Man X. And if I'm going to be playing a Mega Man game at all, I'll probably be playing Battle Network over X any day, so this one doesn't really stand much of a chance of being played anytime soon. Number 84, Cat Lateral Damage. Cat Lateral Damage is a game where you're a cat knocking stuff off of shelves. The game doesn't really do anything beyond that, just having you go from one place to another doing the same thing over and over, occasionally rewarding you with more points for knocking over certain objects or introducing random events like Disco Party. It admittedly has a special place in my heart as the first PlayStation VR title I ever played, but even then I can see it's a basic little title that's fun for only a short amount of time, regardless of if you're using a DualShock controller or you're in VR. Though when it comes to being an animal menace, this game is a far cry from being the best at accomplishing that particular task, and we won't get into that for much later. Number 83, LEGO Jurassic World, the first LEGO game I ever earned a Platinum trophy for, as well as my first ever Platinum. LEGO Jurassic World is just an alright LEGO game that I wish wasn't my first Platinum. Not because it's a bad game per se. It's basically like any other LEGO title, but with dinosaur crossbreeding and LEGO Chris Pratt. No, not that one. But because the game I wish was my first would be more fitting for me as a player. But I won't be talking about that game for quite a while. So for now, LEGO Jurassic World is alright. Life found a way to make this one. Too bad it didn't do a good enough job at it. Number 82, My Name is Mayo 2. My Name is Mayo 2 does basically everything the first game does, but with more dynamic cosmetic changes and a few alternate games to play to break up the monotony. It's functionally the same aside from those changes, but I feel they're enough to add a bit more value to this entry over the original for the same price, so slightly higher up on the list it goes. What can I say? I like tapping jars of mayo. Number 81, Electronauts. A sort of music creation tool meets VR drum kit, Electronauts is all about synthesizing sounds along various tracks to create something unique, or in my case, something that makes your ears bleed. It's not a very deep experience, but it does offer a wide variety of options for creating sounds along to music, so it gets points for that at least. I think if anything, I just wish there were more recognizable songs with this one, and while the songs available in the game aren't bad, they just sound a bit generic overall to me. Plus, this is the closest I'll ever actually get to making music, so be thankful I'm not sharing my gameplay audio here for the sake of your hearing. Number 80, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. I already made a video about what I do and don't like about Melody of Memory, so I'll be quick. I mean, I'm doing that with all of these entries, so I might as well here too. This is a rhythm game using music from the Kingdom Hearts games, but instead of just pressing buttons to attack/hit musical notes, you're attacking Heartless, Nobodies, Unversed, and your sanity to the beat of some excellent music. It's ultimately cool in concept, but executed a bit poorly in my mind. Though, as I said, the music you get to listen to can oftentimes be pretty banging, so it gets points for that at least. Check out the video I made if you want to know more, but for now, we'll move on. Number 79, It Takes Two. It Takes Two has a fantastic story, fun characters, and gorgeous environments, but can sometimes be a challenge to get through for some players when it constantly switches up gameplay styles. It also doesn't help that the game sometimes encourages competition, when the rest of the time it encourages cooperation, making for what I see are frustrating experiences for both seasoned gamers and their partners who don't play as many games or as often, as was the case when Claude and I played through this game. It's still fantastic, and one that I would recommend to anyone looking for a good co-op title, but make sure you have the right partner before proceeding with this one. Number 78, LEGO Marvel's Avengers. I don't know if it was the grind, if it was some potentially strict restrictions from Marvel and Disney, or just general LEGO and or MCU fatigue that keeps this one from ranking higher, but something about LEGO Marvel's Avengers just didn't vibe with me as much. I was surprised by this because the very structure of the game piggybacks off of LEGO Marvel Superheroes, a LEGO game I absolutely loved and will be talking about much later in this video, so maybe it has something to do with that? I don't know, it's still a LEGO game at the end of the day, so there's that at least, but the inherent fun of LEGO titles wasn't enough to save this one from its place on the list. Number 77, Kingdom Hearts 3. I honestly haven't touched Kingdom Hearts 3 since the game originally released, only dropping in once or twice when the Remind DLC came out, and quickly turning around and running away because I'm a weakling. All told, it's another Kingdom Hearts game, but the worlds are more vibrant and expansive, the gummy ship was far better than it's ever been, and a lot of the smaller tweaks to gameplay helped elevate this one for me. I'll probably play this one again at some point, honestly, but I'll at least say it's still a good time overall for now. Number 76, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I will admit that part of my apprehension towards Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice initially was related to the trophies, and what I felt were some tonal dissonance with the overall gameplay. Upon playing it again for this video, I did find a much more emotionally gripping narrative about grief and suffering, and while I still think some of the puzzle elements feel a bit forced, it's still a fantastic overall package worthy of being played. It's certainly different from just about everything else Ninja Theory has made in the past, but it's an emotionally gripping, powerful story that I just wish gelled more with me. I'm not honestly sure why this game is as low as it is, but it's still a fantastic game. Number 75, Nickelodeon Kart Racers. Nickelodeon Kart Racers is a kart racing game starring Nickelodeon characters. Not much else to it. The game does feature segments where you're racing on rivers of slime, and seeing some older Nicktoons make appearances as racers is kinda nice, but it's overall just a standard kart racer, with little to make me want to play it over something like Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing, as was the same with Coffin Dodgers, especially when this specific game has two sequels that are arguably better. Fun to jump into for a bit, but has since been supplanted by other games in the same series, so not much you can really do there. Number 74, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare. The Garden Warfare game that first brought the chaotic and cartoonish violence of the series into the third-person shooter genre, the first Garden Warfare is still relatively fun, but thanks to improvements that both sequels made, it feels devoid of content. The overall concept is still a lot of fun, taking the character-focused gameplay of something like Team Fortress 2 and replacing the red team with flowers and the blue team with the undead. Still fun to jump into every so often, I just prefer the newer options for their wider range of content. Number 73, Knockout City. A surprisingly fun multiplayer dodgeball game with a cool as heck aesthetic, Knockout City sadly had its servers shut down recently. Otherwise, I would have likely been much higher on this list. With its neo-greaser aesthetic, engaging gameplay, and unique tweaks like players being able to be the ball, it was one of the few multiplayer games I clamored for a platinum on. Here's hoping it comes back in some form one day, though I do believe I recently saw rumors of a sequel, so who knows what the future holds for this series. Number 72, Among Us. The game that's managed to infiltrate nearly every corner of pop cultures in ways not seen since the invention of memes, Among Us is one of those games that's a lot of fun to play, but better played with friends rather than randoms online. With randoms, I was constantly accused over nothing, and that's just not fun. But if I'm accused by, say, V over doing nothing, then I get to have at least a little bit of fun being a butt in revenge. It's a fun little social game at the end of the day, and I'm personally excited to snap some Bean Boy necks when the PSVR 2 version eventually drops. Number 71, Please Don't Touch Anything. Much different from Don't Touch the Button, Please Don't Touch Anything is a sort of point-and-click adventure meets escape room where almost everything you'll be clicking on is on a panel in front of you. But the real joy of Please Don't Touch Anything is finding all the wacky endings by doing specific combinations. It can be a bit long-winded for some of the combinations you need to press, but finding all the endings was a genuine treat to behold. If you're a fan of puzzle games like Myst or escape rooms in general, definitely give this one a try. It's also a lot cheaper than going to an escape room, so there you go. Number 70, Watch Dogs. The first game to introduce GTA-style gameplay but with phone magic, Watch Dogs features a relatively fun open-world Chicago to explore, an enjoyable multiplayer mode about invading other players' games to try and hack them, and arguably one of the least likable protagonists in Ubisoft's library. It's a fairly standard open-world game with a few neat flourishes, but I just personally cannot stand the main character and his self-righteous tendencies while he engages in some of the most brutal stuff a self-proclaimed hero would engage with. It can be fun, and I'll likely just skip the story cutscenes and mute the dialogue if I ever play this one again, but considering the second game is far superior and, well, I'll talk about this in just a moment, I don't think I'll ever really dive into this one unless I have to talk about it again. Number 69, nice, Watch Dogs Legion. While the concept of playing as just about anyone in London seems fun, it's unfortunate that that concept is slapped on top of a generic Ubisoft open world, with minimal reason to actually have a variety of people to swap between. Every character you recruit may have their own speciality, but they also can be equipped with just about anything else the game provides, or the game even provides you with equipment you might need if you're not playing as someone who has the stuff that you need, making the choice largely a cosmetic one. The open world can be fun, and there are admittedly some fun little details about each randomly generated character thrown in for fun, but it's otherwise just another Watch Dogs game, so your enjoyment may vary depending on your personal taste for the series. Number 68, Bugsnax. Bugsnax is what happens when you allow a child who sticks googly eyes onto everything in sight to create creatures for a Pokemon Snap-like adventure title, and I'm here for it. The colorful cast of Grumpuses help elevate this beyond just bug and snack, and by finding them your pun-based bounty, you can disfigure them to your heart's content. Couple that with a fun story, unique puzzles for capturing different insect nibbles, and some post-launch DLC that makes the snacks swole, it's an experience that I'm more than satisfying with having completed. Now, if I can just get the damn theme song out of my head, that'd be great. Probably would help if it wasn't in my Spotify playlist. Number 67, The Witness. The Witness has you going around a beautifully sculpted island solving seemingly simple slide puzzles, all with the goal of activating a chamber deep within the island's mountain. The game's ambiguous nature, lush environments, and cryptic statues and messages can all be interpreted in a number of ways, but I'm not smart enough to even begin to interpret any of that beyond slide puzzle make brain go brr. In the end, it's still a fantastically fun, occasionally frustrating puzzle experience, much like the game it's chiefly inspired by, so at least it wins in that regard. Number 66, Golf Club Wasteland. A side-scrolling golf game set on a post-apocalypse Earth, Golf Club Wasteland at times feels more like a puzzle game than a golf game. Granted, that could be because some of the environments you play through require careful planning, banking shots, and utilizing the environment in a side-scrolling perspective, but at its heart it's still all about the King's game, just on an Earth that's been destroyed by some unnamed yet vaguely referenced apocalypse. A surprisingly fun experience when just playing casually, and one that fans of golf and depressing post-apocalypses should check out for themselves. Number 65, A Short Hike. With a wonderfully unique art style, a well-crafted island to explore with lots to find, and plenty of quirky characters to meet, A Short Hike is just a nice, charming little game. A lot of the characters you'll meet are fun to interact with, and the abundance of tasks and mini-games within the world can extend this one from about an hour of playtime to well over 4, giving you that much more time with these adorable little aminals. Plus, there aren't many other games that I can think of that have such charming dialogue that feels like just chatting with your friends on Discord. Except, minus all the naughty words and constant flirting. I mean, hey, that's how I use Discord at least. Number 64, Yet Another Zombie Defense HD. As the title implies, Yet Another Zombie Defense HD is an HD remake of yet another zombie defense game, a twin-stick shooter all about building defenses and surviving waves of undead and monsters. Regardless of the game mode you're playing, the basic setup of building defenses during the day and mowing down monsters at night remains, and it's just an overall fun experience. Finding good methods of staving off undead advances can be fun, and experimenting with different weapons and base setups makes for an enjoyable experience all around, even if it's best played in small bursts. Number 63, Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix. Of the 3 Nick kart racing games, I think this is the one I enjoy the most while also having the most problems with it. The kart racing itself handles great, the roster of characters and addition of the pit crew makes a lot more options of gameplay, and the overall 3D models and environments look better than the first. However, the game removes the jet ski segments for one, the rubber banding AI is atrocious at times, and arguably its sequel, Slime Speedway, did a better job at everything this game tried to do. Plus, this game helped spawn my undying hatred for whoever programmed JoJo Siwa into the game, so I will never forgive it for that alone. Number 62, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. A narrative-focused adventure with fun combat and well-written characters, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy from Square Enix was a genuine delight to play through. I do wish some of the narrative choices had more consequences to them instead of just being a left and right path to the same destination, and it would have been nice to play as more than just Peter, but otherwise it's a fantastic title. If anything, the only reason the game is this far down on the list is because it just doesn't have a whole lot of replay value if you ask me, outside of those aforementioned left or right path choices. But the game does have Lady Hellbender, and any game with a muscle mommy like her in it is an instant win in my book. Number 61, The Artful Escape. Part walking simulator, part choice-based narrative, and part rhythm game, The Artful Escape has you fit into the nicely snug hipster shoes of Francis Vendetti, nephew of a famous folk musician who doesn't want to follow in those footsteps. What follows is an intergalactic adventure of self-discovery, artistic expression, and weird as heck alien designs, all with a vibrant art style and an unnecessary amount of metaphors. In general, my complaints with the game mostly revolve around the lack of choice within the narrative, and the arguably basic rhythm mechanics, but otherwise it's a fairly fun little narrative title. Now I just need to get this hipster stink off of me from playing it. Number 60, The American Dream. Ah, America, land of the free, home of the brave, and more guns per square mile than there are Starbucks and McDonald's combined. In the American Dream, you sit your happy patriotic butt down and are shown the wonders of a world where guns can help you do everything. Flip burgers, clean cars, dancing, and more can be achieved with the pull of a trigger and your Second Amendment rights. This is honestly just one of the best satirical games I've played in years, and it's a highlight of the PlayStation VR for me, and is one of the only times I'm proud to call myself an American. Number 59, Sea of Solitude. An emotional exploration of depression and loneliness, Sea of Solitude tells the story of Kay, forcing her through a flooded world with horrible creatures who call her mean things. Each creature that Kay faces is a representation of her emotions, and several people in her life linked to those emotions, and through understanding them, comes to know herself a bit better and ultimately comes to terms with her own shortcomings. There's the occasional bit of tonal dissonance with this one, like one of the collectibles just be shooing away seagulls, which doesn't really feel needed, but is otherwise a moving, heartfelt look into mental illness and depression, and does so with an expertise of someone who has lived through this pain. I just don't see myself playing as often as a result. Fantastic game, don't get me wrong, but not one I'm exactly clamoring to play again anytime soon. Number 58, The Pathless. A visually arresting experience from the same developer of Abzu, The Pathless is a stunning experience of running through a lush island shooting random crystals and petting your hawk friend whenever he has his tummy ache. The idea is that you're a warrior sent to calm the fury of various spiritual beasts, and as you cleanse the island, you'll grow a stronger bond with your hawk and eventually defeat the evil that caused this tragedy. It's also a game that had me playing for hours just enjoying the movement, even with how simplistic it is, and any game that can accomplish that is fantastic in my book. Number 57, Donut County. Donut County is an adorably comfortable little puzzle game about being an insatiable hole controlled by a bored raccoon. The actual puzzles themselves more or less amount to finding the smallest thing that will fit inside the hole, growing slightly bigger when it drops in, then finding the next biggest thing. Sometimes you can send a balloon into the air by absorbing a fireplace, or making a bunny breeding hole that can't seem to stop hopping off, but otherwise you just get progressively bigger so you can swallow up everything in sight until there's nothing left but misery, ducks, and holes. Number 57, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. My wishlist video for this game is still my number 1 most viewed video, and while I haven't played much of it in recent history, it's still a lot of fun to jump into and mess around with. It's essentially Smash Brothers, but with Nicktoons, but with enough unique flourishes to become its own chaotically fun party game. Overall, it's a lot of fun, especially with a few friends, and it was able to produce a few quality memes along the way, so there's points for that. I'll have more to say on it later, but let's get on with the list for now. Number 55, Saints Row the Third. Saints Row the Third is the entry where the series started to lean away from its Grand Theft Auto-inspired roots in favor of weirder, wackier gameplay, and it was a push in the right direction if you ask me. Saints Row thrives on being a wild and rambunctious experience, and while I personally prefer the even wilder experiences of what would come after this one, it certainly held my attention when I streamed it. Overall, it's a serviceable game with enough weird and wacky minigames to keep me entertained, but it just couldn't compete with what's to come in my mind. Although it does have the minigame where you drive around with a tiger in your car for some reason, so I'll at least give credit where credit is due. Number 54, Pumpkin Jack. Pumpkin Jack is ultimately a platforming title about traversing through different spooky areas, each one featuring its own unique traversal minigame where you force a sarcastic crow to hurl himself into barriers for you and ultimately fight Santa Claus. Yes, really. It's a fine game, one that's best played around Halloween for all the spookums. Then again, there's also Christmas stuff in this one, so maybe play it around Christmas? I don't know. Just pick whichever holiday you watch Nightmare Before Christmas on and have fun. Number 53, Space Otter Charlie. A game that promises otters in its title and actually delivers, Space Otter Charlie is a little gravity-based platformer with a charming sense of humor and satisfying gameplay. The overall story of smart otters exploring space is cute, the boss fights can be engaging, and the overall vibe is lovely. And since it stars otters, of course I was gonna love it. They're my favorite animal. Just an all-around wholesome little experience that any fan of otters should check out for themselves, especially since one of the collectibles is just otter facts. And that's just great. Number 52, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. A remake of a PS2 era game I never played until this came out, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated is basically everything you would want out of a SpongeBob experience. The story sees SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy traveling throughout Bikini Bottom fighting Plankton's evil robots, using bubbles, watermelons, and good old-fashioned karate to do it. Overall, it's a fun experience that's beautifully rendered and loaded to the brim with references to the point that there's not much here to not enjoy. Unless you're not a fan of SpongeBob. But why would you be playing this if that's the case? Like, come on, half of this overly long title is SpongeBob. Number 51, Fallout 4. When it comes to the Fallout series, I genuinely think that Fallout 4 is one of my least favorites in the overall franchise. But is probably my second favorite of the specifically Bethesda-made Fallout games. New Vegas is still my number 1 overall, but that's thanks to Obsidian and not Todd Howard. Either way, Fallout 4 is still fairly fun to play, with a lot of fun areas to explore, some of the better written characters in the series, including sexy robot noir detective man and my newsy waifu, and features a general sandbox feel that's fun to explore, even if the writing isn't great at times and you barely feel like you have any agency in your own story. However, I spent probably a good third of my total playtime in this building settlements, so it's not all bad, right? Number 50, Saints Row Gat Out of Hell. Utilizing the same basic framework as Saints Row 4, but now everything is on fire, Gat Out of Hell is a fun side story for Saints Row 4 similar to Miles Morales for PS5. It's short, it uses a lot of what made the original game fun with its own little twist, and lets me play around in a fun open world structure I already enjoy with new weapons and abilities, as if this were originally just DLC for the original game. Which this basically is. It's more of what I already enjoyed, in other words, but now I get to play as my cyber waifu Kinsey Kensington, which automatically makes things better in my mind. Number 49, South Park: The Fractured But Whole. South Park has had a bit of a sordid history in gaming, but the series managed to pull out two of the arguable best tie-in games for a cartoon out there. The Fractured But Whole is the second of these two games, with an appropriately butt-based pun title as if this were a Ratchet & Clank game, featuring a storyline about the kids playing as superheroes instead of elves and warriors. With a new combat system, a surprisingly campy storyline, and tons of laughs, it's a stellar game, but it doesn't quite match up, at least in my mind, to number 48, South Park: The Stick of Truth. The Stick of Truth is my second favorite game based on an adult cartoon that I'm allowed to show on YouTube, only beaten out by The Simpsons Hit and Run. Obsidian Entertainment managed to not only craft an experience that truly feels like playing a massive episode of the show, but did it with some smart gameplay mechanics, incredibly well written and fitting humor, plenty of references to the show, and plenty of poop jokes to keep us all entertained. I do love both of these games, but they're not ones that I feel the urge to go back to all too often. Even if they're the only games I can definitely say feature children fighting tweakers, robots, Nazis, and undead cafeteria workers without it sounding too far-fetched. Number 47, Destroy All Humans: The HD Remake. Basically the same as the PS2 to PS4 port version, but with prettier graphics, a few small additions, some changes to missions, and some minor improvements to the gameplay. Not really much else to be said about this one. It's about the same in terms of overall quality, since this remake took as much as they could from the original framework. Just an overall solid PS2 era experience. Though I will say I do prefer the original PS2 experience, but I'll get to that in just a little bit, even if this one does have flashy or pretty butts to probe. Number 46, Minecraft Dungeons. Minecraft is one of those IPs that I could see working well with other genres if handled correctly, and Minecraft Dungeons is the game that made me initially have that thought. Making a Diablo-style dungeon crawler with Minecraft aesthetics and graphics makes it much more family-friendly, and the abundance of DLC released for the game means you can continue to play for days on end. I do wish there was at least a bit more depth to this one, but that's probably more because this was made for kids, so it gets a pass from me. Overall, a fun game, and here's hoping we get more genre games in the Minecraft universe like this in Legends soon. Number 45, One Finger Death Punch 2. Originally a Flash game utilizing the same overall concept, One Finger Death Punch 2 is a 2-button fighting game that feels more like a rhythm game at times that's fast-paced carnage with a stick figure aesthetic. Simply attack enemies as they come at you from either side of the screen, occasionally picking up a weapon or engaging in a quick time event with certain fighters to advance. There's plenty of side modes and objectives as well, so there's plenty of fun to be had with this game. Just, don't expect anything like Ghost of Tsushima in terms of art style here. Number 44, Job Simulator. A VR simulation game about robots from the future simulating jobs from our time, this tongue-in-cheek experience is rife with simple tasks and silly gags that works great as an introduction to VR. Working in one of 4 careers with overly simplified tasks to perform, each one offers a lot of silly creativity in how some tasks are completed, and can just in general be a lot of fun to play. The lack of movement options can be a bit stifling, however, so it's a great game that could only be improved, which they did with their next game. Number 43, Vacation Simulator. Vacation Simulator takes the same format of robots simulating human activities, but instead of focusing on manual labor all day long, you get to take a vacation. The ultimate fantasy experience. Vacation Simulator improves upon basically everything Job Simulator does by offering a wider range of activities to partake in, the ability to explore 3 major areas full of activities, and a few quality of life fixes that make the overall experience that much better. Of the two, I would personally play Vacation Simulator over Job Simulator again, mostly to try to remove myself from capitalism as quickly as possible. Number 42, Destroy All Humans, the PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 4 port. One of my favorite PS2 titles that was released as a PS4 download, Destroy All Humans is just plain fun if you ask me. Running around as Crypto taking on the police and zapping brains out of people's skulls is just silly, and the story is equally over the top thanks to its 50s invasion movie parody angle. Some of the missions can feel a bit much at times, and the game's age certainly shows in a few of its jokes and the controls, but it's still an overall fun experience that I like to visit every so often, probing my way across America one ass at a time. Number 41, Tales from the Borderlands. Telltale Games made a name for themselves with the Walking Dead series of point-and-click adventure titles, but the first game that piqued my interest from the former LucasArts developers was their collaboration with 2K titled Tales from the Borderlands. The gameplay is the same as the majority of their other titles. Players are immersed into a narrative with well-written characters, stilted animations, choices that have incredible consequences for progression, and an expertly crafted story. Tales from the Borderlands is also one of the only games I played that got me to almost cry, and it was for a character I never thought I would get misty-eyed over, so that alone makes it incredible in my book. Number 40, Islanders. A relaxing experience of inhabiting various procedurally generated islands. Islanders strays from the norm in that you don't need to manage villagers, resources, or anything like that, and instead you just need to put certain buildings next to each other to make numbers go up. Each building has a base score when placed, and placing things like a lumber yard next to trees increases that score. You get a high enough score, and you get to move to the next island, restarting the process all over again. It's a fun game if you want something to just zone out to, and is a relaxing experience that I still dip into on occasion when I just want to vibe for a while. Number 39, Star Wars Racer Episode 1. If there's one thing that everyone unanimously loves about The Phantom Menace, it's Jar Jar Binks. After that, however, it would likely be pod racing, and so naturally, everyone's second favorite part of the movie got a video game because developers are cowards who don't want to make a Jar Jar Binks dating sim of our dreams. In Star Wars Racers, you see what it's like to pod race. By pod racing. Outside of occasionally buying new parts, that's really all this game is, and it's still a heck of a lot of fun to play. But now, seriously, where's my Jar Jar dating sim aspire? Give it to me. Number 38, Goat Simulator. A game all about doing normal goat things, Goat Simulator is one of my favorite simulation sandboxes simply because of how wild and wacky everything can get. Sure, you can go around bleeding at people and getting hit by cars, but you can also end up being part of a Deadmau5 concert, play a Flappy Bird knockoff for an obscenely long time, and hang out with the adolescent deviant samurai reptiles just because. It's one of those games that's intentionally aimless, and sometimes that's all you need for your escapist entertainment. Number 37, Ratchet & Clank for PlayStation 4. The game based on the movie based on the game, Ratchet & Clank on PS4 is certainly a game, with Quark acting as an unreliable narrator for this retelling of the original game. A lot of the changes within can be chalked up to his usual level of incompetence, but there's also some exclusions that were clearly done thanks to time constraints or to accommodate changes made for the movie. What this game does well is include stunning recreations of many of the classic game's levels, a sort of greatest hits roster of weapons to purchase and use, and these awkward talking head animations that make things feel hollow and rushed. Wait, that's not good. Ultimately, it's a fine game with good humor and gameplay, and so long as I never have to watch the movie again, I can sleep soundly at night. Number 36, OKKO Let's Play Heroes. OKKO is one of my favorite modern cartoons, and when I heard there was a videos game, I made sure to play it as soon as I could. The art style is relatively unique, the combat is simple and fun, and being able to explore Lakewood Plaza Turbo and helping various characters from the show is all I could ever want. Well, except for maybe making it longer or doing a sequel, but that maybe just be me. Anyway, if you like the show, definitely check this one out. And if you haven't seen the show, go watch it, it's really good. Number 35, Sayonara Wild Hearts. A visually stunning series of what are essentially interactive music videos, Sayonara Wild Hearts combines a variety of tropes and genres into its neon-infused aesthetic to craft one of the most pleasant rhythm games I've ever played. The game tells the story of a young woman heartbroken by life, and the ups and downs of finding new friends, finding purpose, and ultimately finding herself. It's become one of my personal favorite games of this previous generation, and one that anyone looking for an emotionally engaging game should play. Number 34, Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville. The most recent of the Garden Warfare titles that dropped that title for some reason, Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville is a lot of the same stuff that was featured in Garden Warfare 2, but with more characters, new game modes, and is arguably less fun. Don't get me wrong, it's still very fun, and I play it constantly to this day, with some of the new characters you get to play as being neat or nice inclusions, but it's otherwise just fine. If you want to check it out, I'm pretty sure it's free to play, so at least it's got that going for it? Maybe? I don't know, I'm too lazy to check. Number 33, Untitled Goose Game. Who among us hasn't wanted to terrorize a small English village as a goose before? Well, that's all you do in Untitled Goose Game. Steal a gardener's keys and lock him out of his garden, scare a little boy into hiding into a phone booth with your impressive wingspan, pose as a statue to receive a lovely little bow tie, and steal a bell from the miniature version of the town to add to your hoard. It's simple, silly fun, with my only gripe being that there's not much replay value outside of doing all the tasks you've already done again, but this time faster. A bit more variety or maybe a content update would be lovely. All I'm saying is that the monarchy seems like they're in turmoil right now. Never been a better time to try and steal the crown jewels. Number 32, Ratchet Deadlock HD for PS3. Ratchet Deadlocked is my personal favorite Ratchet & Clank game, but this version that was given away for free with digital copies of Ratchet & Clank Full Frontal Assault is a buggy, glitch-ridden mess of a game. It's playable, don't get me wrong, but with how many graphical and gameplay issues this version has specifically, it makes me want to set fire to my PS3 so I don't accidentally summon this demon ever again. The game is still deadlocked, which is nice, traveling from planet to planet, fighting enemies in arena combat challenges, and the story and music are as good as ever, so at the very least it has that going for it. It's just, look, there's such a thing as showing too much teeth while smiling, but this is taking things a bit far. Number 31, Chivalry 2. An appropriately arcadey medieval combat title, Chivalry 2's primary concept is fairly simple. Charge into battle as a medieval knight fighting for either the Agathans or the Masons, slashing, bashing, and otherwise clashing as you complete standard multiplayer objectives. The gameplay itself offers an extra bit of depth thanks to a variety of weapons and 3 primary attacks leading to an almost rock, paper, scissors style attack pattern. Or you can just pick up some rocks, scissors, or paper and throw them to your heart's content. Definitely not one I would normally go out of my way to play, but it's weird and wacky enough to have hooked me in. Number 30, Stardew Valley. Have you ever wanted to just get away from it all? To start life anew in a small town where the only troubles you have are minuscule by comparison to what you have now? Well, Stardew Valley is just the game for you, without the need to actually get your hands dirty. Stardew Valley is one of those games that everyone knows about at this point, and I've already talked about at least one trophy from this game for an exhaustive amount of time, so I'll move on from here. Just know that this game is wholesome, relaxing, and a lot of fun if you're into farming sims, but if you will go for the platinum, maybe check out my other video so that task doesn't consume your life any more than the actual game will. Number 29, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Spider-Man Miles Morales is a fantastic showcase of what the PlayStation 5 was capable of from day one, with some fantastic visual touches like snow melting on clothing, as well as more subtle things like the consistent frame rate and the DualSense controller's various features. The game is sadly short, however, being able to be beaten in less than 8 hours to 100% completion, but with how much it changes up Miles' combat and traversal, I'm alright ranking this game not quite as high as the game it borrows its primary structure from, but still fairly high, and if nothing else, has me excited for whatever Insomniac has in store for Spider-Man 2. Number 28, Spyro the Dragon. The first Spyro the Dragon game is fantastic, good fun that I sometimes pick up and play just for the heck of it or because I need a pick-me-up. With its unique worlds, fun gameplay loop, and general whimsy, it's hard not to like this one. And while it would later be eclipsed by its 2 sequels, it's still a fantastic game, especially in the reignited trilogy. It did, however, introduce the world to these taunting little fuckers, and for that fact alone, this game must be punished, and ending up just shy of the top 25 seems like a fitting punishment to me. Number 27, Rocket League. Do you like soccer? Do you enjoy RC cars? Well, have I got the YouTube and Twitch sensation that you already know about for you. Rocket League is a simple concept that has evolved quite a bit over the years, including modes where you can play basketball or hit people with cartoon punching gloves, but at its core is still just soccer with race cars. And honestly, what more do you need me to say? It's Rocket League, which is quite arguably the most well-known online party game out there. Well, except for number 26, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. Fall Guys can be irritating, infuriating, unfair, and even now is full of minor problems that keep it from being truly great in my mind, but it's still a lot of fun to play. A platforming-focused battle royale is a concept that works surprisingly well, slotting players into various challenges to try and be the last being standing. And I genuinely hope that the success of this game helps us get other genres turned into battle royale titles. I don't know about you, but I would love to see other genres tackle making battle royale games. Like, could you imagine a dating sim battle royale? 10 dates enter, 1 date leaves. Wait, no, that's just The Bachelor. Wait, is The Bachelor the original battle royale? Number 25, Lego Marvel's Superheroes. One of my personal favorite Lego games that I've completed at least twice, once on the 360 and now on PlayStation 4, this game is the gold standard of Lego titles for me. A fun and self-referential story, lots of fun callouts and hidden gem characters, plenty of stuff to do both in levels and the open world, and Stan Lee. You can't go wrong with Stan the Man. Overall, just a satisfying package with a fun story, densely packed open world, lots of fun callouts, and overall a general fun factor to the proceedings. Certainly a lot better than the MCU, at least. Number 24, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. One of the first games I ever got for the PlayStation 2 that I fell in love with almost immediately. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger is an above-average platforming title with so much Australian flavor, it makes me want to cook a shrimp on a Barbie doll, which doesn't seem feasible, but hey, that's a saying, I guess. The main game sees Ty collecting thunder eggs, opals, and talismans using nothing more than his big bite, an army's worth of boomerangs, and enough Australian slang that you'll think you've accidentally started watching Bluey. It's one of my favorite games for the PlayStation 2. I was super glad to hear that the same studio made a version for the PlayStation 4, and my desire for shrimp on Barbie dolls has grown up one more tick after replaying this. Number 23, Fallout Shelter. A resource management mobile title that was later ported to consoles, Fallout Shelter has you managing your own Vault-Tec vault, complete with mishaps and mayhem that you can cause. It's a largely simple experience that can easily become engrossing, and I've spent many hours playing both the console and mobile versions because I have no life. It's a fairly well-made game, which is surprising considering this is a Bethesda title, and is my favorite of the Bethesda-made Fallout games. Yes, I prefer this to Fallout 4, even if this is just a tie-in for 4, so deal with it. Number 22, Snakey Bus. Have you ever wanted to be a bus driver? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to play Snake in three-dimensional space? Well, if you somehow fit into the center of this very strange Venn diagram, then Snakey Bus is the game for you. Gameplay largely revolves around you driving around various locations, picking up passengers, and dropping them off at their destinations. With each successful drop-off, your bus grows in length, and soon you're not only dealing with the often cramped environments, but also your own train of buses blocking your path. It's a wildly fun and often tense little experience, and an easy recommendation for any fans of buses or other whimsical and surreal modes of transportation out there. Number 21, Batman Arkham Asylum. One of the best superhero games, marred only by the fact that I feel its direct sequel one-ups it in just about every sense, Batman Arkham Asylum is a fantastic title that showcases everything great about Batman that Warner Brothers just can't seem to grasp for their film versions. Being able to explore Arkham Island and discover Riddler trophies or hidden Easter eggs is a lot of fun, and the story perfectly encapsulates what it's like to be Batman for a night and having to juggle 18 things at once while the Joker just laughs at you. This game remains one of my favorite superhero titles, and it's a game that I'll gladly play through again, just maybe not to 100% completion. Number 20, Undertale. The indie hit that I wasn't sure would translate well to consoles due to some under-the-hood techniques the game utilizes, Undertale is one of those games that's best played blind, but has been spoiled to hell and back, so good luck with that. Running around the underworld talking to or slaying monsters is a lot of fun, and the game genuinely feels like it makes your choices matter instead of making every choice be either a left or right path, unlike other games. Not just with individual runs, but certain bits of dialogue, paths you can take, and so much more. It's also one of the few games that's ever gotten me to cry before, and it has a shrine to dogs. So I guess I can give it points for that too. Number 19, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage is a fine sequel, but I've always personally felt it leans a bit too heavily on collectibles. With plenty of gems, orbs, talismans, and potential furry waifus to gather up, Ripto's Rage is probably the collectiest game in the whole franchise, and that can sometimes bog down the experience for me personally. I will still gladly play this over several games on this list. Its placement alone here should be proof enough of that, but there's still one game in the trilogy that I'd rather play, but we're not talking about that right now. Instead, let's talk about number 18, Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy. As mentioned at the beginning of this video, I technically have this game as a platinum twice, but it only gets one spot in this video, so I'm only going to talk about it once. All that said, Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy is one of my personal favorite PS2 titles, and being able to replay it on both PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 with full trophy support was wonderful. I loved playing through the game so much I may genuinely do it again on Vita, and I could honestly just go back and play through this game just for the fun of it. Though I'm more likely to play the honorable mention I chose to substitute talking about these two games, so you know what, hey, let's talk about that now. Number 17, Octodad Dadliest Catch. Technically not a platinum, but it's the first game that I earned every trophy in and got me interested in doing so for other games, so I'm considering it my honorary platinum for this video. My video, my rules. The game itself is very simple and fun to play. Move around normal areas like a grocery store or an aquarium, but you have octopus limbs that weeble and wobble and make you constantly fall down. A sort of stealth comedy title where you try not to slip up too much to reveal your true identity, with a fun story and neat physics-based puzzles that I really wish had a platinum, but it does not, so I am sad. Number 16, Astro's Playroom. Astro's Playroom is a fantastic little celebration of Sony's history, and just a fun, free pack-in title for the PlayStation 5. Each of the game's 4 worlds are fun to traverse with plenty of stuff to find within each one, and it's a great game to have just at the ready if you invite someone over who has never tried out the features of the DualSense before. I've already made 2 videos talking about everything I like with this game though, so check those out and play this one for yourself if you have the chance. And let's move on to the top 15. Number 15, God of War. 2018's God of War was a fantastic reintroduction to the mythos of God of War, even if it changed basically everything about the God of War mythos in order to work. A new mythology to slash through, environments to explore, camera angles to try and work with, and much more were enough to make this change feel a bit jarring at first, but the overall presentation and gameplay ended up being stellar new takes on the formula that were welcome changes. Even Kratos himself managed to change a bit, capable of showing more emotion than just rage now. He even laughs at one point, and not in that arrogant I'm a god kind of way either, just like a genuine chortle, which for him is called character development. Genuinely just one of my favorite games for the PlayStation 4, and I still have to get through Ragnarok at some point. Number 14, Saints Row 4 Re-Elected. While most people prefer Saints Row the Third for its more grounded approach to gameplay, I always enjoyed Saints Row 4 much more. I mean, within the first 20 minutes, your character is made president, you cure cancer, aliens attack, abduct you and your crew into an alien version of the Matrix, and then destroy Earth, just cause they fucking can. Now you run around a simulated version of your hometown fighting aliens, blowing stuff up just because you can, and giving yourself superpowers because why the hell not? It's not the best made game, admittedly, but it's just frankly silly, stupid fun in my mind, and at the end of the day, that's what I want in my games. Number 13, Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. This is the PS5 remaster of the PS4 title that I'll be talking about in just a bit, but is otherwise the same as what came out on last-gen hardware. This might have come with all the DLC, but I experienced more technical issues with this one, both audio and gameplay related, than I did on the PlayStation 4 version, enough for me to consider it a separate and just barely worse experience. Aside from those admittedly small problems, it's still a fun time, though I'm more likely to pick up and play the PlayStation 4 version. Can't imagine why I would do that. Number 12, Resogun. One of the first games for PlayStation 4 that's become a sort of hidden gem for some players, Resogun is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up utilizing a voxel engine, meaning everything is made out of tiny cubes that blow up spectacularly. With a wide variety of game modes, easy to pick up and play controls, and a creation suite that's fun and easy to utilize to make some truly stupid stuff, Resogun is and will likely remain one of my favorite PlayStation 4 games, and was one of the main reasons I even picked up Returnal when that game released. In general, this is just a stellar game, one that I still pick up and play on occasion, and easily deserving of being this high on my list. Number 11, Spyro Year of the Dragon. When it comes to the Spyro trilogy, Year of the Dragon has been my favorite since I first played it on PlayStation 1. The variety to the gameplay, multiple playable characters, fun storyline, and finely honed gameplay make for an overall fantastic experience in my mind, and is always a game I can return to and just have a blast playing. The same could easily be said for the other two games in the trilogy, but this game offers so much more than those two combined that it's not even a contest. Plus, you have multiple levels that feature a dragon on a skateboard. And nothing beats a dragon on a skateboard. Well, except for the final 10 games on this list, I suppose. Number 10, Ratchet & Clank: A Crack in Time. Seen by many as the best Ratchet & Clank game, A Crack in Time is easily one of my favorite games on the PlayStation 3, and one of the only games that I currently have a platform on said system. It's just not my personal favorite. If anything, I'd say it's third best. In this game, Clank has become a time god, Ratchet hangs out with a cranky homeless man, and Dr. Nefarious plots evilly in the corner for 8 hours only to fumble a few feet from the goal. A Crack in Time may not be my favorite game in the franchise, but it's still a fantastic title with stellar gameplay, and at the very least, is both a better game and features a better butt joke in its title than Quest for Booty ever did. Number 9, Astrobot Rescue Mission. My personal favorite game for the original PlayStation VR, Astrobot Rescue Mission is just a pleasant little charming experience that immerses you into the game by making your head the camera. Astro is such a cute little mascot that Sony wastes on being just a tech demo character for their new hardware, and the worlds you get to explore are combined with some of the smoothest gameplay available, making this a lot of fun to not only play, but to complete. I personally feel that this is a must-play for anyone who gets a PSVR headset. I genuinely hope this gets a follow-up of some kind on PSVR 2, and it's not even the only great Astrobot game on this list as previously stated. Seriously, Sony, give us more Astrobot. I want more. Number 8, Spiritfarer. Originally, I wanted my 100th platinum to be Kingdom Hearts 2, but I ended up playing Spiritfarer on the side when I streamed Kingdom Hearts 2, and eventually just fell in love with this game and its world to the point that I basically platinumed it by accident. Helping various characters by providing them hot meals, good hugs, and emotional catharsis, the game has you tending to the needs of the deceased before ferrying them into the afterlife. It's a beautifully animated, expertly crafted, and full of powerful emotional moments game, and easily fits among my favorite games on this list. Number 7, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2. The only online-focused game on this list to be in the Platinum tier in my initial ranking videos, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 is a massive improvement over the original game, and I feel is better than Battle for Neighborville. The characters all feel balanced, the plethora of game modes are great, there's plenty of open world content, and the extra post-game mode makes for an experience that's rarely dull. And I just genuinely love playing this game whenever I get the itch to return. The first game and Battle for Neighborville are both still quality games that can be a lot of fun to play, but I would drop them both in a heartbeat to return to this war. Number 6, Psychonauts. Psychonauts to this day is one of my favorite games, so of course it's ranked this high up. Told you to watch out for personal biases, didn't I? That said, the game is not without flaws, and that can sometimes make it hard to go back to this game. Regardless of its age, I still emphatically enjoy it. And while that's probably at least a bit of nostalgia talking, I genuinely enjoy myself whenever I play this game again, though going for the Platinum was truly a test of patience in some regards that gave me a headache. Which is, weirdly fitting, but I don't think that was meant to be that way. Number 5, Psychonauts 2. Well, now this is just weird to see. Psychonauts 2 took everything good about the first game and made it better. So much so, I don't really treat it as a full-fledged sequel, but more of just a second chapter of one of my favorite games. Honestly, the amount of things this version improved upon over the original is astounding, and I can't deny that this sequel did everything it needed to make the overall gameplay better. It's a fantastic game that I recommend to anyone who is a fan of platformers. Plus, this game has little doodle raz here, and more games should have a little doodle raz. Number 4, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. While Ratchet Deadlocked may still be my favorite game in the franchise, that sentiment sadly does not translate to the PS3 quote-unquote HD version. Rift Apart, meanwhile, is just a fantastic overall experience, with stellar visuals, new characters that are utterly wonderful and I hope we see more of, unlike what Insomniac likes to do where they drop them off, but that's not the point, and is overall just a fun, stable game to play, assuming you don't play it on PC because oof. Rift Apart is easily the best of the Ratchet & Clank games I played to earn a Platinum trophy in, no question. Also, Rivet is fucking hot. Number 3, Marvel's Spider-Man. Marvel's Spider-Man is an all-around great game, with the PlayStation 4 version being somehow better than the one released for updated hardware. That could be Insomniac using their optimization tricks on PlayStation 5 and not really having the time to do something similar with PlayStation 5, but I digress. Marvel's Spider-Man is by far the best Spider-Man game to come out to date, with fluid controls, incredible storytelling, great characters, admittedly so-so stealth sections, and is just a ton of fun to play. If the sequel is even half as good as this combined with what we got with Miles Morales, then I'm honestly on board for whatever the hell Insomniac has in store for us. Number 2, Kingdom Hearts. The first Kingdom Hearts is still one of my personal favorite games, having been one of the first major JRPGs that I sunk my teeth into during the PS2 days. I have vivid memories of finding Kurt Ziza for the first time without a guide, or just experiencing the game as a whole. And while several of the Final Fantasy references went over my head and the general tone of the story threw me off at times, it was still just a blast to play through. The franchise as a whole might have turned into a bit of a convoluted mess with some so-so games, but it's comforting to know that I can always return to this classic and enjoy myself. Number 1, Hades. Hades is, in my honest opinion, one of the best modern games available. The storytelling, gameplay, art direction, and everything else blends together beautifully to create an experience that should be at the very least witnessed, if not played through, and I would happily recommend this game to anyone who might even tangentially enjoy it. I have much more to say, but I am hard at work on my video talking about why I think this game is a masterpiece, and I cannot wait to see the world expanded with its upcoming sequel. And there you have it. If you've seen the video where I ranked all my PlayStation 5 games, it probably shouldn't come as a shock to anyone that Hades was my number 1 game for this video. And if it somehow did, well, you're either surprised that Psychonauts wasn't number 1, or you don't know how much I just love this game. So much so, in fact, that the next video will be dedicated entirely to talking about it. That's right, my next major video is going to be my long talked about retrospective on Hades, finally diving into why I love this game so much. At the very least, I anticipate that that video will take significantly less time to make than this one, especially since I don't have to waste 2 weeks playing the most mediocre Banjo Kazooie game imaginable in between. Plus, I mean, it's not like anything else has been happening recently that'll distract me in the meantime before releasing that.
Everybody's an idiot except for me. Let's get this over with.
Clams!
Damn it!